Hello everyone, and thank you for joining this week's Docs Virtue class, which is all about text block integration. In the next 20 minutes, we're gonna focus on how can you work with master and sub templates, and how can you integrate text blocks. And we're gonna look at a few different versions on there. How can you integrate Word documents via Excel data sources? How can you work with conditions on there, linking text blocks? How can you integrate Word documents also based on conditions, different ones from SharePoint? And how can you manage your content centrally, not in every template, but really centrally? And how can you manage your corporate design? That will await you in the next 20 minutes, next 20 to 30 minutes. Let's get started. So I'm gonna start it within my Explorer, and first, so that you see my live demo as well, like the agenda, and you can reread it, all of that here. Good, and then I'm going to my Explorer, and what I can see here is that I have one Word document that I've received from my marketing, for example, and that's my document with the corporate identity. And this is just a really normal Word document with one logo up there and a little bit of formatting down there. And my task is to set up something for our employees, like an additional document for our employee contract, for example. And there we will have a restrictive covenant, and we also have another document that will be inserted at a remuneration policy. And I'm just gonna say here, this is the additional information to the contract. And I'm just gonna leave it. And then I have some additional information, but I just don't wanna type it in here. I wanna integrate it as a text block because I have it separately somewhere. And I can show you, I have a subfolder which is called text blocks, and there I have my document which is called restrictive covenant, and that's how it looks like. What happens when you leave the company, what do you need to do, and I want to integrate that. And there are a few different options on how to do that, and I will start with option 1, and that's the integration via an Excel data source. So what I do is I go back here, and then at first I'm generating an Excel document, and I'm gonna call it text blocks. And there I add just 2 documents. One is just 2 fields. One is the name and one is the path. And then the name is the restrictive covenant, and then I have to give the path to it. So we're in my folder text block webinar here, and it's in subfolder text blocks. And what I do now is I'm just gonna go here and I will say I want to copy that as path, the name of that, and I'm inserting my path here. However, I only need the text blocks, my path here with text blocks and restrictive covenant. So that's my subfolders. Great. So I have that set up, and now I go back to my document, and now I need to set up a data map, which I'm going to save in the same directory as my template, and that's on my desktop, and I will call it text block DM. So I have it here, and I see it's in the same directory. I'm just gonna open and close it for a second, and we can see that even if I closed it here, we have the data map connected, and then I can add my Excel data source, which I will call text block integration via Excel. And now I choose my Excel file, which is called text blocks from here. It's in the same directory as my template, so I can go and choose doc path here. And if I click on the 3 dots down there, my Excel opens, and I can say, okay, please take the name and the path as data fields. I can say I want to read until the first empty cell. Okay. I save my changes. And then if I go on insert data field, I have my path here, which I can integrate. And I say, don't just fill in the path, but fill it in as Word document, and it's stored in the same folder, and then complete the path with what you have in my Excel document. And now I click on OK, and now my document is generated, and I have the restrictive covenant in here. Then the second option I have is to integrate my text block, my restrictive covenant, that I integrate that one via a condition. So I just put it in here, then I have it in my template, but I don't want to display it all the time. I just want to display it when a certain condition is met. And I'm going to base that on my employee list within SharePoint. Hence, I'm going to add my SharePoint data sources. So because here, for example, I have Michaela, and based on whether she's a developer or sales manager or someone else, the text block will be inserted or not. And then I go to data map, and I'm going to set up my data sources. And here I have my sites. And then my modern employee contracts. Great. I'm also adding an input parameter already at the same time too. An explanation on how to do that can be found in the Docs42 class of Word add-in. So I'm just quickly doing that. Oops. So, and here within my data source, I set the connection that the employee I'm choosing and all the corresponding data will be inserted. Good, I've set up some data sources, and on those data sources, I want to base a condition. So I say, okay, only fill in this text block if my candidate position is developer. So only the developer gets this restrictive covenant, the others won't get it. So now if I generate, the difference is now that I can choose, I can select an employee, I will say to Michaela, and now it's generating my document, and I have the option run restrictive covenant and the option to insert it because the condition was met. If I say, let's say Bodo Botschafter, he's a sales manager. If I say for Bodo Botschafter, and I generate the document, I don't get the option to insert it. Good. And then there's the option 3, you can link a text block. And the link text block is here back up in the automate range. And then here I can say link text block, and then I can choose my text block. So my Explorer opens, I go to my text block, I open my restrictive covenant. I can also say this is the doc path. So it also here it's dynamically the path which you integrate, and then here I have my restrictive covenant added. I could also add a condition up here. I'm just going to leave that out for now. And I'm generating my document. So Michaela restricted covenant down here. Perfect. And now let's say these are my first 3 options I have. And let's say I'm like working on my templates and I have another text I want to add, but it doesn't exist yet as a text block. So I can just say, this is another text, additional information, and I want to use it as a link text block. So I just mark that one, go to automate range, and then I say save as text block, and then I can save it down there, and then I say additional info, and then I can see here again, this is giving me the path, the doc path. Here I have additional info, and if I go and look in my Explorer, I have a separate Word document that was added, which I can then later integrate anytime and work with it. And now let's say something changes, some content changes in a restrictive covenant that needs to be applied. I'm going to add that to my document. So if I, for example, integrate my text blocks via conditions, I can just simply go here, and then within my document, I say this is some new information that needs to be added. I just put that down here, and I'll make that red, and I'm going to regenerate my document. And then we see for the option 2, we have it added, but for option 3 and option 4, we don't have the changes applied yet. And this is where it comes into play that you can manage your content centrally. So it could be that you have several templates, several different documents where you want to exactly integrate that part of the restrictive covenant, and that might change over time. And you wouldn't want to do it just in every single template. Hence, we control the content centrally. So if I go back to my restrictive covenant and I open it, and then I say this is additional info, and I make that one green and bold so we can see it, and then I close it. And here, first of all, I can always come here and say reload text block. So here I see the additional info already. And if I then regenerate my document, I have here the additional info added. And that, let's try something. So here I have an employee contract, a ready one, which also integrates a restrictive covenant. And if I reload the text block, it's also added here. So if I change it and adjust it, it will be taken everywhere where I insert a text block. So that saves a lot of time for you. Also another important part, because here we're working with main documents and we're working with sub-templates, is the corporate identity, the corporate color, and so on. So for example, if you have one coloring in the Word, in the main template, but in a sub-template, you don't really cover how it looks like and so on, it will always take the formatting which you have specified in the main template. And I'm going to show you now. So here I have the restrictive covenant. I say this is heading 1. And in my example, the heading 1 is in blue. Oh, okay, that we will have to add that here on the option 3, which is heading 1. And then in my restrictive covenant, in my text block, if I go here to restrictive covenant, I also say this is heading 1, but here it's in orange. And then I save it. So subtemplate orange. In the original document, heading 1 is in blue. So if I'm here in my original, in my main template, and if I click on generate, and then I'm generating a document, we see it's still added in blue, even though in the subtemplate it's in orange. So it will always take the document from the main template, the formatting. And then I want to show you something more. So here we're always integrating one specific text, but then we might have different texts based on condition. So here back in my SharePoint list, I have a developer, I have a sales manager, and so on. Depending on which position they are hired, they will have another document added. So here they have a remuneration policy for developer, for sales manager, and for trainee. It's always a different document. And I'm just going to open one so that we can see this is also a sub-template. So here we have some further data fields that are inserted. And I'm going to add that one now as a data source and then integrate it. So I will say remuneration policy should be added my site. And I connect, and then I have my Docs42 templates. So I've chosen the wrong one, it's this one. And then here I can set a query. And I say my position here is the same as the position in my candidate, which I select and whatever their position is. Okay. And then okay here, so we have that one added. And then in my remuneration policy, so if I go back and check once again, if I click on test, let's see what it says here. Great, let's leave it for now. I know it's returning me back my documents. And then here I can say my remuneration policy, the URL path, that's the path for the document on SharePoint, should be inserted as a Word document. And then the directory is the SharePoint.com. Okay, and now I'm regenerating my document with all the information, and then I have a small mistake in my path. I need to delete my slash back here, and I'm redoing it for Michaela Mitarbeiter to document to be generated. And now if I go down here, we have the developer remuneration policy for Michaela Mitarbeiter, who is a developer and gets that one inserted. And if I change that here, I can also say on the next page, this should be added, this one a bit up. If I go down here and then say, I want to generate it for Bodo Botschafter, and Bodo Botschafter, he's a sales manager, so he will get a different Word document added down there. Employee, Bodo Botschafter, position, sales manager, and some different texts added down here. Great, and those are your options on how you can integrate text blocks, how you can work with it, how to manage main templates and sub templates, and dynamically integrate your data sources. I hope that once again was helpful for you. If you want to know some more, visit our website. Under resources, you find a lot of docs for the 2 classes, a lot of tutorials. You can also drop us an email and of course request your free trial, free workshop, and drop us feedback. Thank you very much, and bye bye.